The train station was suffocating with noise, shoes scraping against marble, hurried voices colliding, the metallic screech of wheels dragging against tracks. Yet she stood still, almost invisible in the crowd, clutching the small suitcase tighter than her breath. Her red scarf slipped loose against the wind, brushing her cheek like a reminder she couldn't escape. She caught it before it fell, fingers trembling, veins pulsing, as if the fabric itself carried the weight of everything she had left unsaid. "Don't look back," she whispered to herself, but her eyes betrayed her, scanning faces she pretended not to recognize. The departures board blinked above, numbers flipping like impatient seconds. She could feel the crowd push against her shoulders, their urgency pressing her to move, but her body resisted. It was not hesitation, it was something deeper, a storm threading itself through her ribs, making it impossible to breathe. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. She already knew who it was. The same voices who had once ignored her, silenced her, pushed her name out of the project as if she were an afterthought. Now they wanted her. Now they needed her. She exhaled, slow and jagged, as though even the air carried betrayal. A child's laughter burst somewhere behind her, echoing too brightly against the steel walls. For a second she turned her head, her reflection caught in the station window, faint and fractured between moving shadows. Eyes hollow but unbroken, hair tangled by the restless wind, a face both fragile and terrifyingly alive. Her fingers brushed over the cracked watch on her wrist, the one that had stopped ticking months ago. She never replaced it. Maybe she didn't want time to move forward. Maybe she wanted to carry the pause with her, like a scar nobody else could see. Boarding now, track 7. A voice rang through the speakers. She didn't move. The suitcase felt heavier, though it was nearly empty. The scarf fluttered again like it wanted to fly away, but she held on. Always holding on. A man brushed past her shoulder, muttering, "Watch it." She almost smiled at the irony. If only he knew how much she had been watching. Every slight, every silence, every meeting where her voice was swallowed whole. The train roared into the station, wind rushing forward, pulling at her hair, tugging the scarf as if the world itself wanted her to decide. Stay or leave. Forget or return. Forgive or not. Her phone buzzed again, harder this time. She finally pulled it out, the screen glowing in her hand, one name flashing again and again. She stared at it, unmoving. The scarf slipped loose a second time. This time she let it fall. The scarf lay where it fell, a red thread against the station floor. She didn't reach for it. Not yet. Her gaze drifted past the blur of people. Families pulling each other close, lovers gripping hands with desperate relief. She watched as a woman broke into tears when her son appeared through the crowd, their embrace raw and messy, a picture too warm for her frozen chest. She tightened her grip on the cracked watch at her wrist, thumb brushing its glass like a prayer. Her father's voice flickered in memory, quiet but steady. "Time breaks, but you don't. You keep walking." She had been a child then, staring at the same watch when it still ticked. Her father had handed it to her before his last trip, promising he'd return in a week. He never did. The watch stopped the day she got the news. Since then she carried it like unfinished words pressed against her skin. The suitcase felt heavier with the memory, though inside it held only bare things. 2 shirts, a book with half its pages missing, a folder of documents she couldn't let anyone see. To the crowd it was just luggage. To her, it was proof she hadn't given up, even when everything around her suggested she should. A gust of air swept the station again, curling her hair across her face. She brushed it back slowly, her hands shaking, pretending it was only the wind. Her phone buzzed once more. A new message flashed. "We need you. Please answer." She locked the screen. The word need made her laugh, a sound so bitter she quickly pressed her lips shut. Months ago they hadn't even looked her way. Her ideas drowned under louder voices, her name scratched off documents she had bled over. And now, when the walls they built for themselves began to collapse, suddenly she was indispensable. "They think I'm a lifeline." She thought it but didn't believe it. Not fully. From the corner of her eye, she noticed him. A man standing just far enough to blend into the station's chaos, yet still. Too still. His gaze wasn't demanding, not like the messages on her phone. It was quiet, deliberate, as if he was reading the silence around her instead of the noise. She didn't move closer. She didn't move away. She only noticed the way his eyes dropped to the fallen scarf, then back to her face, as if asking a question he wouldn't speak aloud. Her chest tightened. Her throat ached. She bent down slowly to pick up the scarf. The fabric felt colder now, the red dim under the fluorescent lights. She wrapped it back around her neck, hands trembling with a weight that wasn't just fabric. The speakers cracked again. Final boarding call, track 7. The crowd surged forward. Her phone buzzed hard in her palm. She clutched both, the suitcase handle and the glowing screen, before stopping in hesitation, breath caught between leaving and turning back. And when she finally looked up, the man was still watching. The platform lights flickered as the train doors hissed open. A thin drizzle tapped against the station roof, its rhythm uneven, as though the sky itself couldn't decide whether to break into rain or hold back. She gripped her suitcase tighter. The scarf clung damp against her neck. The cracked watch glimmered faintly under the artificial light, unmoving, relentless. Her phone buzzed again, insistent. She didn't check it. Instead, her eyes found him. The stranger hadn't moved. Still there like a shadow stitched into the crowd. Yet now, with the shifting light, she noticed things she hadn't before. His shoes, worn at the edges, leather faded into pale creases, the cuff of his coat frayed like a threadbare promise, and when he turned slightly, reaching for his pocket, she caught the corner of a photograph peeking from his wallet, creased, overfolded, kept too long. A woman and a child. Their faces blurred with time. Her chest tightened. For a second she thought she saw herself inside that photograph, not literally but in the way it was held. Precious, broken, untouchable. A mirror she hadn't asked for. The thunder cracked outside, sharp enough to draw a few startled glances. She didn't flinch. Instead, she let the sound anchor the storm she carried inside her. He's like me. The thought came without invitation. Same silence, same weight disguised as stillness. But was that truth, or only her loneliness searching for reflection? The speakers blared again. Final call. Doors closing. Her body lurched toward the train, but her eyes betrayed her, caught on him once more. Why was he watching her with that kind of patience? Not desperate. Not demanding. Just waiting, as though he already knew the choice she would make. The scarf slipped loose again. She caught it this time, fingers gripping hard, knuckles pale. She hated the way her heart pulled in two directions. Forward, away, into the unknown she had been planning for weeks. Or back, toward a silence that somehow felt louder than her own. Rain finally broke free, spilling against the glass roof, streaming down the platform windows. The sound drowned the last announcements, leaving only fragments of words. She shifted her weight, one foot on the train step, the other still on the platform. The suitcase tilted dangerously, caught between leaving and staying. He didn't move closer. He didn't move away. Only his gaze followed her, steady and unreadable. Her phone lit again in her palm. "We can't do this without you." She exhaled sharply, her breath trembling into the rain-cooled air. For a moment, the scarf fluttered as though ready to slip free again. She looked down at the cracked watch, unmoving, then back at him. The train doors hissed, waiting. And she froze, caught in the silence before a choice. Rain pressed harder now, 1,000 fingers drumming the station roof, each drop echoing her pulse. The train door stood open like a mouth waiting to swallow her whole. She almost stepped in, almost let herself vanish into forward motion. But something made her turn just once for one last look. He was still there. The stranger, unmoving, yet every detail of him sharpened against the blur of the rushing crowd. His coat hung heavy with rain, his hair damp at the edges, the photograph in his wallet still half visible like a wound he refused to cover. She should have kept walking. She almost did. But then she saw it, her scarf. Not around her neck. Not clutched in her hand. On the ground again, soaked through, crimson bleeding darker against the wet platform. She didn't even feel it slip this time. And he bent down to pick it up. The sight struck her harder than the thunder rolling outside. His hands lingered on the fabric a moment too long, as though he knew it wasn't just cloth, as though he recognized what it carried. Her breath broke. Her throat ached with words she could not shape. He stepped no closer, yet their eyes met through the storm of voices and rushing feet. And in that gaze she heard something without sound. Some people carry more than just bags, they carry silence. A woman brushing past muttered, "Make up your mind, girl." Another man glanced at her suitcase, then away, lips pursed with judgment he didn't bother to hide. To them, she was indecision, hesitation, weakness blocking the flow of the platform. But to him, what was she? She clenched the cracked watch, nails pressing hard into her skin. It had always been her reminder of endings. Now, under the station lights with the scarf in his hand, it began to feel like something else. Not just an anchor. A mirror. Her phone buzzed violently again. She didn't look at the screen. Couldn't. She felt the words pressing against her, heavy with false urgency. "We can't do this without you." She almost laughed again, bitter and raw, but the sound died in her chest. Her knees weakened. For a terrifying second, she thought she might collapse there, between the open train doors and the platform edge. A breakdown waiting for an audience. But she steadied. Barely. Breath shallow, hands shaking, suitcase slipping down beside her feet. When she finally lifted her eyes, the scarf was no longer on the ground. He was holding it now, rain dripping from its threads, his expression unreadable, somewhere between offering and keeping. The doors hissed again, warning of closure. Her body leaned forward but her heart pulled back. And in that suspended second, the platform belonged only to the silence between them. The doors shrieked as they began to close. She should have stepped inside, but her body betrayed her, rooted to the platform. Then his hand lifted. Not toward her but outward, revealing the scarf in his palm. He wasn't offering it carelessly. He held it with a gravity that unsettled her, like he was holding a piece of himself. And then she saw it. Not just the scarf. The watch. The same model as hers, cracked in the same place, stopped at a different hour. For a moment, her breath collapsed inside her chest. 2 watches. 2 silences. A sound rose in her memory, her father's voice worn thin. "Time breaks but you don't. You keep walking." The words circled back, looping over themselves, but this time they no longer sounded like comfort. They sounded like warning. The man finally stepped forward. Just one step. Enough to let her see the photograph clearly as he adjusted it back into his wallet. The woman and the child, faces blurred, but the red scarf unmistakable around the little girl's neck. Her heart split. She stumbled back half a step, suitcase clattering behind her. Rain splattered across her cheeks like cold hands. The scarf wasn't just hers anymore. It wasn't just fabric. It had belonged to someone else, someone who had lived in his world before vanishing from it. A daughter, perhaps. Lost like her father. Lost like her time. The train screamed again, its final warning. But the sound dissolved into the rush of her thoughts. Her phone buzzed. The message flashed. Meeting rescheduled. The director himself will be there. Her blood iced. Director. The name blinking on the screen matched the one she had memorized from late-night research. The new CEO, the one whose company she had just applied to. The one she swore she would prove wrong after her team tried to erase her. And now he was standing right in front of her. The scarf in his hand. The same silence in his eyes. The man she thought was only a stranger. The platform blurred. The crowd moved around her like shadows she couldn't touch. She wanted to run. She wanted to step forward. Both felt impossible. Her father's words returned again, fractured this time. You keep walking. But toward what? Toward whom? Her suitcase handle was slick with rain when she gripped it again. The scarf dangled between them like a thread refusing to snap. She didn't step into the train. She turned instead, toward the station's inner corridor, lights flickering like uncertain stars. Each step felt like a fall. Point of no return. And at the end of the corridor, a door waited half open, spilling light onto the wet floor. She walked into it. The corridor swallowed the noise of the platform. Only the steady hum of fluorescent lights filled the air, flickering as though the station itself was holding its breath. She stopped before the half-open door. Beyond it, shadows moved, low voices murmured. For a second she considered turning back. But something heavier than fear pushed her forward. When she stepped inside, he was already there. Not waiting by accident. Waiting because he belonged here. The scarf lay folded in his hand. The watch on his wrist caught the dim light, cracked glass glinting like a mirror of her own. For a long moment neither spoke. Then he set the scarf gently on the table between them, like an offering. "It was hers," he said, his voice low, unshaken. "My daughter. She wore it the day we lost her." Her throat closed. Rainwater dripped from her hair, sliding down her cheek like a tear she hadn't given herself permission to release. "And now," he continued, eyes locking into hers, "you carry it, as if time wanted to place it back in front of me." Her pulse thundered. The words pressed too deep, too close to everything she had tried to bury. She touched her cracked watch, nails trembling against the frozen hands. "You remind me of her," he said, not tender, not cruel, just inevitable. "The way you stand alone. The way you hold on when you should have let go." She almost flinched. She wasn't chosen for who she was. She was chosen because she resembled someone gone. A shadow. A memory. And yet, something inside her shifted. The scarf between them no longer felt like hers to claim. She pushed it back across the table. Her voice barely held. "I can't wear her silence anymore." The words cut her, but they freed her. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded, slowly, as if acknowledging a choice neither of them could undo. Outside, the train screamed again, departing without her. This time she didn't look back. Instead, she unclasped her watch. The one her father had given her. The one that had stopped the day he never returned. She set it down beside the scarf. For the first time, her wrist felt unbearably light. He looked at it, then at her. Something unreadable flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe grief, maybe relief. "You're leaving it behind?" he asked. Her voice was quiet but steady. "Some things are too heavy to keep carrying." The room stilled. The hum of the lights seemed softer, as though the storm itself had bent to listen. She stepped back, suitcase rolling silently behind her. She didn't take the scarf. She didn't take the watch. Both belonged to silence now. As she reached the doorway, she turned once more. The same station. The same departure board flipping restless numbers. But this time she was not the girl waiting to be called. She was the one choosing where to walk. The door closed behind her. And the silence that followed was not emptiness. It was change. Not every stranger you help is meant to stay. But some leave you changed forever. The rain had stopped by the time she stepped outside. The city glistened as though someone had washed it clean. Pavement shining with broken lights. Puddles holding fractured reflections of neon signs. She walked slowly, suitcase rattling against uneven stone. But her steps no longer trembled. The station, with its restless departures and voices, faded behind her like a story she had finally closed. Her wrist felt strange without the weight of the watch. For years it had marked her grief, pressed its silence into her skin. Now without it she felt both fragile and unshackled, like learning to balance again after carrying too much. The scarf drifted into her thoughts, the red of it still vivid against the rain-soaked platform. She didn't regret leaving it. Some objects are not meant to be owned, they are meant to return home, even if that home is no longer alive. Passing a shop window, she caught her reflection again. This time it did not startle her. Her hair clung to her face, her clothes were damp, but her eyes carried something different. Not triumph, not certainty, but strength born from surviving what she didn't name. At the corner, a child tugged his mother's sleeve, laughing as he pointed to the sky where the clouds had begun to part. She slowed, watching them, a small ache in her chest softening. Her father's words echoed faintly. "Time breaks, but you don't. You keep walking." She smiled, but it was not bitter anymore. It was quiet like recognition. She turned down a narrow street where the lamps glowed pale gold. The suitcase wheels caught on the cracks, but she didn't mind. Every sound now felt like proof of moving forward. When she reached her apartment later that night, she slid open the drawer of her desk. Empty. Waiting. She placed nothing inside. Only her hand lingered over the space where the watch and scarf might have been. A pause. A breath. And then she closed it softly, as though sealing something she no longer needed to carry. She lay back on the bed, hair spread across the pillow, listening to the city breathe outside her window. The world felt neither cruel nor forgiving, just endless. Sometimes love is not romance, it's recognition. The thought rose uninvited, gentle and devastating. Her eyes closed, but sleep didn't come. Instead, she imagined the scarf under another light, the watch resting in someone else's memory, and her own hands finally free. Not every story is meant to finish with answers. Some end with doors still half open, hallways stretching into silence. And maybe that's the point, because closure isn't always about endings. Sometimes it's about carrying questions that refuse to die.